Okay, let's see if there are any updates on the Iran-US war.
I want to show you how a very small route change at just the right place and just the right time can make a difference worth millions, maybe eventually billions of dollars. Up until only a few weeks ago, this is how 1/5 of the world's oil supply traveled from the Middle East to world markets through the
Yep,
Strait of Hormuz,
yep.
until Iran, under attack from the US and Israel, shut it down. But since then, the world has noticed ships more and more as the weeks go by, transiting a slightly different route, squeezing through this tiny waterway only a few kilometers wide.
Wait, isn't that's Iran's territory?
Only a few kilometers wide. I want to make one thing very clear. Any ship traveling this route is traveling deep into Iranian coastal waters, which
Yeah.
means Iran decides whether any of these ships make it through in one piece. So there is, according to more and more reports, a toll.
Toll. They turned it into a highway pretty much. Iran charges some ships Hormuz transit fees, of course. Safe passage.
Payment for safe
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like they're losing the war at this point. They put the whole world on a chokehold, so.
passage. The regime extracting money from a global oil economy that is increasingly desperate to get product moving again. One of two reported tolls went as high as $2 million for one ship.
What? Oh my god.
Let's talk about
So, how many ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz on a daily basis? Following the outbreak in February, daily ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz dropped by 90% from a pre-war average of roughly 133.15 per day. Yeah, with many remaining vessels acting. Well, if we do an average of 5 ships, that's a lot of money.
how lucrative this might be for Iran and just what kind of leverage it has.
Yeah.
So let's start with what we know before diving into what we don't know. Lloyd's List published on Monday a report that so-called zombie tankers were transiting this new Iran-approved toll route.
What's a zombie tanker? 2 vessels transited Strait of Hormuz with a new Iranian detour over the weekend, impersonating dead oil and gas carriers. What? What is this? Zombie tanker.
Lloyd's List, if you've never heard of it, is a shipping industry intelligence firm, hundreds of years old, very established. These zombie tankers, hiding their true identities and origins, are reported to be among more than 20 that have now taken this detour. At least 2 of these ships, according to Lloyd's List, have paid tolls. One fee reported to have been around $2 million. And this is something the Iranian regime may wish to expand. It has reportedly considered and discussed the idea of making these tolls permanent. Lawmakers in Iran are apparently in the process of drafting a bill to officialize state supervision of the strait, and news agencies close to the regime are quoting its point of view as entirely natural. Just as goods pay transit fees when passing through other corridors, the Strait of Hormuz is also a corridor. It goes on.
Pretty much.
We provided security, and it is natural that ships and oil tankers should pay such fees. Now, international law is very clear that tolling the strait is not natural, as they put it. But I'll get to that in a second, because first, let's put the toll itself in context. And I'm going to start really big, blue sky, then
Well, it's not about the toll itself. They just want a part of the cake too, so they know how much money is transiting through that strait daily, so they want their fair share.
we'll zero in on the ship-by-ship breakdown. Figure, in a typical year, the estimates for how many tankers go through the Strait of Hormuz is somewhere between 30 and 50,000. Let's take the low end of that and apply a $2 million toll to each ship. That's $60 billion, or what would be almost a fifth of Iran's GDP last year. Now, I'm not saying Iran could plausibly start charging that amount of money to every single ship and that they'd all pay without question. It's more complicated than that.
This is very, very hard to actually implement. If there were to be like a actual
Yeah, it
toll
is.
system in place, it would require like an international cooperation. That's not what's happening.
They would be both in charge of providing
Yeah, it will require actually people to agree to it, which no one's gonna agree to it.
security through the toll transit, but also being the chief source of insecurity that's brought us to this point in Hormuz. So tankers and ships in general may not trust the Iranians to let them through.
But at minimum, let's at least also try to understand why there is a very real incentive and pressure even for ships carrying oil to just pay the toll. Because $2 million per ship does sound like a lot, but when you consider
But to
a
an oil
typical
tanker, it's
that
not, yeah.
travels the strait, the biggest ones come in two classes: very large and ultra.
Yeah, they probably carry around what, 60, 70 million bucks worth of crude oil, so yeah. It's worth paying it.
Large crude carriers. And just to give you a sense of how big these ships really are, a VLCC, 330 meters long. That's as long as a 100-story building is tall. A ship this
Wow.
big can carry the equivalent of about 2 million barrels of oil. An ultra-large carrier can hold even more, around 3 million barrels.
And how
So
much
you do
is
the
that?
napkin math. A $2 million charge on 2 million barrels of oil, that's $1 a barrel. The international benchmark price of oil for a couple weeks now has topped $100 a barrel. So Iran has effectively taken, in thus far a very ad hoc, isolated way, up to a 1% cut of what all that oil stuck in the strait is currently worth. So you tell me, you have a $200 million ship carrying
Oh.
$300 million worth of oil.
Three-
You'd like to get it moving. Thank you very much. What possible reason could you have
Not to pay, yeah.
$2 million toll?
Yeah. That's what I would do. Just pay the damn thing and move on.
We can answer this question. Why not pay a pittance?
I mean, eventually this war is gonna end. This is only temporary. For now. We hope so. So might as well just pay the fee and consider it done.
To Iran to sail the strait with two very simple words. It's illegal.
The whole concept of a toll is illegal in the first place. That is not something that is allowed under international law. Transit passage involves being able to move freely. And so this whole notion of a toll is counter to the freedom of navigation and to the fundamental principles of international maritime law.
I can even show you where this is written out in international law. It's this UN provision which governs international straits like the Strait of Hormuz.
Article 40.
States bordering straits shall not hamper transit passage. There shall be no suspension of transit passage. Which doesn't explicitly say you can't charge a toll, but if not paying the toll means you either can't cross or your boats get blown up, this is what a lawyer would call hampering transit passage.
The inability to transit it safely without paying the toll is by definition hampered.
Hampering, yeah.
I mean, we do not see movement through the strait the way we did before.
If Iran finds this new source of revenue by charging tankers or other ships for going through
Yeah, they're effectively choking the entire strait, so
Strait of Hormuz, that hurts U.S. policy because it's a way that Iran can circumvent sanctions. It's a way that they can circumvent limits placed on their oil sales.
Yeah.
It's a way they could potentially fund wars against the United States. By doing this, they can say, look, we're not trying to menace everyone else's shipping. We're only going to attack ships or prevent the passage of ships
certain
that are
ships.
United States owned or
Yeah.
affiliated or Israel owned or affiliated. And the rest of the world,
We're not hampering everyone's movement, only certain ones, so
we don't want to cause problems for you. And so it can help get countries back on their side in some way.
yeah, it creates this us versus them, so
If Iran's promise not to attack shipping is actually upheld.
The overarching worry here for anyone who's not on Iran's side is that what we're seeing play out here in the Strait of Hormuz is Iran's immense
Leverage, yeah.
The world has known for a long time how easy it would be to disrupt the world's most important yet most vulnerable oil shipping
Commodity,
route.
yeah.
In fact, this was a big story 7 years ago when a series of attacks on oil tankers just beyond the Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf of Oman raised this very serious question of how a regional threat could affect global markets. The price shock at the time was much less, but the lesson was the same. And now the problem is much worse.
Iran has begun laying
Mines,
mines in the
yeah.
Strait of Hormuz.
They started mining it, yeah.
In the Strait of Hormuz, thousands of vessels are at a standstill.
I mean, technically, that's the only way of defense they have at this point. Not defense, I mean retaliation, so.
Global oil production has reached historic levels. Prices have remained stubbornly high.
That's the only way for them to make an impact. That's what I would say.
The U.S. claim we hear over and over again is that the war should be ending soon because Iran is out of options.
Yeah.
Iran's air defenses are gone. Their command and control is shattered, their top leaders hiding in underground bunkers, while their mid-level commanders are being crushed in the field.
You're beginning to see the regime look for an exit ramp. The Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal.
But it's that last part. But
Yeah, that's the thing. If their ship is sinking, they're gonna make sure to sink as many as they can with them.
they refuse to come to a deal where it's helpful to read between the lines. If Iran hasn't yet agreed to a deal, it's because they still have cards to play. And coercion in the Strait of Hormuz is a play to which the US, at least so far,
Have no
has
answer.
had no effective answer.
Yeah.